What is good, everybody? My name is Dan Kornhauser,
And my name is Bobby Hunt.
and we want to thank you guys for tuning in as we take you back into the world of sports. This is our second video that we're doing, and we are doing an NFL preview. We already did the offensive side of the ball. Hopefully, you guys check that video out. And today, we're going to be doing something a little different. So we're going to be splitting up the defensive position groups into 5 different groups: edge rushers, D-line, linebackers, corners, and safeties. We're going to break each one down individually into 5 different videos so you guys can peruse around and skip and see what you like and go back and forth. So we're going to jump right into it. We're going to start with the edge rushers. Bob, you ready?
I am ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it, baby. So this year, the edge rushing class has a transcendent talent at the top. We all know it's Chase Young, Ohio State. That's been as well established, dominated throughout the season. Didn't even matter that he missed a few games due to suspension at all, not one bit. 16 and a half sacks, I think, this past season. One of the best defensive linemen in the country, if not the best, and most likely going to be your second overall pick after Joe Burrow. But the edge rushing class is not that deep so far this year. To me, there's only 2 first-round players in this class at the edge rushing position. And I'm, besides talking Chase Young, I am talking about K'Lavon Chaisson. God,
Sounds good. I
names.
think it's K'Lavon Chaisson, but it is
Yeah.
a somewhat difficult name to pronounce. And he's only a redshirt sophomore coming out of LSU.
Yes, but he's another one who I think, Bob, we were talking about this off the air, and you mentioned that he was reminiscent to you of, what was it, Dante Fowler when Fowler was coming out of Florida?
A little bit, yeah, pretty raw. He's not going to have as many expectations since he's not going to go in the top 5. And I think that'll benefit him because he is still very young and very raw and not a lot of starting experience so far in college.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Experience is a problem, as are durability concerns with him, because he's had ankle issues, knee issues the past couple of years. And he's got a weird frame. Like, he's kind of slender. He could stand to add probably another like 15 pounds to that frame and not lose any of his speed or anything like that. But where he stands out to me is the explosiveness, is his speed off the edge. He is a blur off the edge. And I mean, his pass rushing is where the money he's going to make his money. He's got some good moves. He's not refined. He's not Chase Young. Chase Young has it all: the strength, the length, the speed, all of it. The moves, the counter moves. He's fucking ready. Plug him in day one and not. Don't even give it a second thought. You got double-digit sack artists from first week of the preseason. But with Jason, I think he has that potential. Maybe not to the Chase Young level, but he's dynamic and he's a true difference maker on the edge. But I think it's got to be in the right system. I don't know if he's really made to be a 4-3 end. I think, if anything, at best for the 4-3, he would have to go to like a Seattle type system or something like that, where they have speedy guys all over the field and they use that to their advantage. I think something like that he would fit into. But I think he's more of a 3-4 outside linebacker. Where do you peg him, Bob?
Well, like you said, he's someone that would benefit from being in a scheme that suits his skill set. And I do believe 3-4 outside linebacker would be ideal for him as well. Compared to Chase Young, yeah, he's a beast. Line him up anywhere. He's one of those that we're not going to talk about where you need a particular scheme. He can be a 4-3 DN. I think that's ideal for him, but he could be in a 3-4. It doesn't matter. He's just a flat-out playmaker and a rare pass rusher, and he's going to go number 2 overall to the Redskins. With Chase on, yes, he would benefit in a 3-4. A lot of mocks have him going, say, 14 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Would make a lot of sense there. They run a 3-4. Shaq Barrett's only on the franchise tag for this year. Jason Pierre-Paul is already 30 or 31 and only on a 1 or 2 year deal. And they could really use some infusion of talent on that defensive line in that 3-4 outside linebacking core, whether he's got his hand in the dirt pass rushing sometimes, or you use his athletic, lanky frame to maybe do some zone coverage or every now and then defend someone in a little zone. I think he's definitely capable of that. But, yeah, he has that bend that you look for, that explosive, quick first step. And there were times when he would beat some of the star SEC tackles like Andrew Thomas, who himself is going to be a top 10 to 15 pick at offensive tackle. And he had some good tape against him. They both battled well, both showed out and showed that they're NFL prospects. But Chason definitely impressed. And even with the limited experience he has, there's definitely excitement for this guy that he's going to flourish and be better at the next level than he even was at college and with LSU.
Yeah, no, because I mean, the production at LSU wasn't necessarily there, which is a little problematic because you're looking for when I give out first round grades. I know I talked about this when we discussed the offensive side of the ball, but when I'm giving out first round grades, I'm looking for guys with potential production, the measurables, and the least amount of question marks, health wise, off the field wise, etc. So with Chase on, the physical is there, and you see it on tape, and it's clear, and it's awesome. And LSU used him well. They moved him around, and it was great. But the injuries, the ankle injury was the primary issue this past season, and he did miss some time, and he only had 6.5 sacks, which is a little concerning. Again, I like that production from these marquee guys, but I think some development, like I said, in the right. We've been talking about the right system. I think he'll be all right. Plug in pretty much day one. But for me, those two guys as first rounders for you, or is there a surprise guy that I didn't mention?
I think you're having some connection issues. I heard what you said, but it's a little laggy, just FYI. But basically, for my big board, I have them both as first round grades. So I have 22 first round grades. You had 21. And both of them are first rounders for me. I think they both belong in the first round, and that's where they're going to get picked too. I'm confident in saying that. It's more after that, there is no other first round grades for edge rushers, and it's not exceptionally deep, but there are some certain players that will fit nicely in certain schemes.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have any other first round guys besides Chazon and Young
No,
at the
I
edge
don't.
rusher?
They're not. If I were to do a mock draft, yeah, I think there might be a pass rusher that sneaks in from the edge position group late in the first, but I didn't grade anyone else as a first round grade at the edge position. I have a bunch of second round grades like Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State, A.J. Epinesa out of Iowa. They're all in my top 50. Curtis Weaver out of Boise State is another one that I really am high on, a little higher than a lot of people. But Julian Okwara out of Notre Dame, another impressive pass rusher that maybe would be higher up the boards had he come out early, or if he even stayed another year. Maybe if he stayed another year and got another extra year of seasoning, maybe he'd be a higher pick next year. There are some decent pass rushers, but no one that stands out as much as Young or the untapped potential, say, of Chason.
Okay, so who do you have in that next tier? If not those, besides those top two guys, who do you have in the next tier? Obviously, Gross-Matos, you mentioned. Is there anyone that stands out to you who you could see going maybe at the tail end of the first round besides those guys, or early in the second?
I would say maybe Julian Okwara. I have him currently 48th on my board, which puts him right smack dab in as a middle second rounder. But I think teams love his motor and how much he could really pressure the pocket at Notre Dame. And they did play some top competition. They play the Michigans of the world. They play some Pac-12 teams like Stanford and USC every year. They played Iowa. They play Michigan State pretty much every year. So they play good teams that use all different kinds of personnel. They use pro personnel. They use spread out systems, and they run the gamut. And I think Okwara showed well and could be maybe a late first round pick. Probably not. I would lean toward no. But would it shock me? No. We see surprises late in the first round all the time, and especially when it's a premier position like a pass rusher. Some team, if they fall in love, we know the Seahawks are a team that always seems to fall in love with someone that has like third round talent, and they take them late in the first round. So I could see something like
Bruce
that.
Irvin,
LJ Collier.
Yeah, it was Bruce Irvin a few years, LJ Collier last year, Rashad Penny.
Yeah, if you had to bet money, the Seahawks at 27 are the team that are going to take some guy that the casual fan either hasn't heard of, or even us draft nicks are like, yo, that guy is a third round prospect. I had a third round grade on him.
Yep, we've had those conversations before. We've
Well,
definitely had those conversations.
what I want to ask you is who's like a sleeper for you? Who's someone that maybe even is past that? That's not going to be a day one or maybe even day two pick, maybe slides into the rounds 4 through 7 on Saturday. Anybody is say in that range that you really like that you've graded? I mean, you have a top 200, so you got to have someone you really like.
My chart goes deep, bro. I think I'm at 225 right now on my final board, um, with something like another like 25 or 30 players ranked as like seventh rounder or priority undrafted free agent types. So yeah, we go hard over here. But if we're looking more towards the mid rounds, third, fourth, fifth round, sixth round, there's a couple of guys I like. Naturally, everyone's board's going to be different depending on the system you run and stuff like that. But I'm going to actually give love to one of my boys from the Florida Gators, and I normally don't like to compliment my own teams. I'm very hard on my teams, as Bob knows.
Yes.
So I'm very, very critical of my teams. They seldom impress me, even when they're winning. I'm not impressed. Florida's won 10 games or more the last 2 or 3 years, and I've been unimpressed, wildly mediocre. I don't know what I'm watching, but anyway, um, Jonathan Greenard. I want to show that man some love. Now I've watched every Florida game, every Saturday. Even if I can't watch it live, I catch it, later on. It's the internet. Things are available everywhere. But he really stood out to me. He's someone who shows a lot of effort on the field. He's not someone who, even if he gets blocked, double teamed, thrown on his ass, is going to just give up on the play and just putts around and stuff like that. He's a hard worker. He's really good in pursuit. He really came up in the clutch a lot. Like, he made a lot of good plays. He's not a complete player, which is why I currently have him as a round 3 grade for me. And on my final big board, just pulling that up here, so one sec, we're looking at him at number 91 overall, which is right in the thick of the third round range. So if he went early third round, cool. Obviously that's because some coach finds that they can maybe do something special with him. But he's another one. I don't like him in the 4-3. He's not much of a run defender. He does get washed up a bit, and he's not like he's good but not great. He makes plays and he's clutch and he's a hard worker and he's really fucking smart, but he's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. He's not the best run defender. He's not the longest. He's a good but not great. And he has enough speed, enough athleticism, enough agility off the edge to be a quality edge rusher, and he can maybe be a solid rotational guy, at least early on. But he's not someone who I would want to rely on as my top pass rusher or anything like that, at least not early on. I'd like to see him gain some strength because you can't work on his length. There's nothing you can do about that. But you can work on his get off. You can work on adding some, 10 pounds of muscle in a weight room because you're going to be dealing with pro offensive lines. And yeah, the SEC is close. It's not quite the NFL. So he might be a second rounder. He might be a third rounder, but he's one of those guys that stood out to me, particularly on my team. And I think that's worth noting because,
you're usually a very harsh critic, and needs to say, especially with football, when it comes to the Lions and Florida football. So I agree. I like Jonathan Greenard as well. I have him at 85 on my big board, and he's my number 11 11th edge rusher. Where do you have him as far as rank, just as far as an edge rusher?
He's my 8th overall edge rusher and 91 overall on my big board.
Okay, great. And who are some of the teams that you think are really going to be looking for a pass rusher? So we know Chase Young is going to go number 2 to Washington. And just to touch back on him real quick, very few negatives. The only thing I saw is he could be better against the run, maybe setting the edge a little bit better. But pretty much everything else is there. The closing speed. He could maybe add some moves. That's the only other thing. It's nitpicking when it comes to such a great prospect like Chase Young. Then you have Chase on, probably slides in there somewhere in the middle of the first round. We think some of the Bucks might be looking for that, but they have other their avenues. And we haven't even mentioned that the Bucks traded for Rob Gronkowski earlier today. So now they add another offensive
weapon
with Tom Brady. and they traded a 7th-round pick and Rob Gronkowski. The Patriots did to the Bucks for a 4th-rounder. And now this begs the question: are they looking at maybe someone like Chase on defense, or are they going to beef up their offense again for Brady?
It's got we'll touch on this a little bit. I don't want to ruin it for our mock draft or anything like that. But I'm on this move, honestly, for the Buccaneers. I think it's an A+ for the Pats. You just got a 4th-round pick for a retired player, an injury-prone retired player who is still a WWE champion as we speak.
Yeah, the 24/7 champion.
Kudos to Bill Belichick for being a genius yet again and getting something for nothing. Let's not be confused, folks. Yes, it's Rob Gronkowski, but this isn't the Rob Gronkowski of 3 years ago, 2 years ago. He was dealing with a slew of injuries to many of his appendages, leg injuries, elbow injury, back injuries, all kinds of fucking problems. He was all fucked up constantly. I don't think he played a full season in a few years because of injuries. And he retired because of the injuries at 29 years old. So that should give you an idea of where this guy was. Yes, it's Gronkowski. The name value is there. And I'm sure his hands are still good. He's still a big guy. I'm sure once he starts working out with an NFL regimen he looks like he lost a lot of weight. He got really really thinner than he used to.
He definitely lost a lot of his playing weight. So he's going to have to bulk up for the Bucks. But do they look for offense or defense there? Do you think they're targeting edge rusher, or there's some other team that's going to take Chase on somewhere in that mid to late 1st round?
I think someone else is going to take Chase on somewhere in the mid to late 1st round. And I think the Bucks have to go offensive tackle. That's the last piece of the puzzle for the offense. They have a gaping hole at tackle, whether it be left tackle or right tackle. Donovan Smith is currently at left tackle. You know how I feel about Smith. But yes, for those who don't know, I think he fucking sucks and he's a waste of fucking money. And they should be disgusted with themselves that they paid this man $12 million a year to suck. You can give me a 100th of that, and I'll do the exact same thing right now. Nothing. Donovan Smith is the worst tackle, and John would agree with me too. He hates Donovan.
He's not the worst, but he definitely is not going to be someone that.
You're right. He's not Bobby Hart. Okay, you're right.
Right.
And he's not Greg Robinson. You're right.
He's not those guys.
You're right.
Well, so the Bucks are one of those teams that could be looking for a pass rusher, but some teams also that may be in pursuit of one like Chase on or one of the other guys we mentioned, like Gross Matos or Epinesa in the 1st round, maybe the Falcons. They're a team that seems starved for a corner, but I wouldn't be shocked if they take Chase on. They need pass rush help themselves after Vic Beasley disappointed the last few years. Adrian Claiborne's gone. They really have no pass rusher to write home about. Takk McKinley, the jury's still out on that 1st-round pick from a few years ago. So you look at the Falcons at 16. Maybe the Dolphins add more talent at 18 or 26. Let's see. Maybe even the Patriots, the team that just traded Gronk. They're a team that could use help in their linebacking core.
They lost a lot of guys this offseason. They're going to need to beef up that front seven big time. But what about, honestly, dude, if we look around the league, we could probably say about half of the league could stand to add a legitimate edge rusher. The Bills could stand to add another one. Their guys are getting old. Dolphins, Patriots, the Jets badly need a pass rusher. It's getting really bad out there. The Titans need an edge rusher. I think they're an edge rusher away from being a more complete defense overall. Maybe they sign Clowney, who knows? But if they don't, then a guy like Jason, if he's on the board late in the 1st round, could be the target. If not, maybe Gross Matos or somebody like that. But the Titans, the Redskins, well, they'll be addressing that with Chase Young. The Giants could use edge rush help. The Lions need edge rush help. The Falcons, the Seahawks. There's a few teams that could stand to beef up their edge rushing core for sure.
Yeah, and even though teams might not even invest a 1st-round pick, I could definitely see a number of them going off the board in the 2nd round on early day 2 on Friday night. Giants definitely need that. I'm wearing my Saquon Barkley jersey, and they certainly need a lot of pass rush help. The Lions, too, are another team that could be in pursuit of that at the top of the 2nd round. So I think that's really where you're probably more likely to see Gross Matos, Epinesa, those types, Okwara from Notre Dame. The other names that I just want to throw out there, and you certainly feel free to do so also after me, Josh Uche out of Michigan, another underrated pass rusher. Bradley Anae out of Utah. Utah just seems to churn out pass rushers all the time. Never anyone that is some like double-digit demon, but always guys that give a lot of effort, good motor, and stick around in the league, especially in a 3-4 on the outside linebacker position. Khalid Kareem, the teammate of Julian Okwara, and Marlon Davidson out of Auburn. Those are just some of the other names that I wanted to rattle off that people should be aware of that are probably going to be in that second, third, fourth round mix as we get closer to the draft. And we're under 48 hours until we get to see day one.
Yes, I like some of those names. Now, I have some of these guys at other positions. So I have Marlon Davidson as a defensive lineman. So I'll talk about him more in depth when we go over the D line, because that's where I think he'll be better classified. He's 6'3", 303, athletic as shit, but I'll touch more on him when we go to the D line. But I have him classified as D line. I have Yuch as an outside linebacker, so a linebacker position, 6'1", 245. But I think he'd be okay in a 4-3 as one of those stand-up rushers or something like that. Von Miller's done it. There's other guys who have done it. I think he could be one of those guys too. I'm not handicapping him as an edge rusher. But he is very good at the position. But I classify him as a linebacker. So I'll go more in depth on him when we get to the linebackers segment. I love Anae. I have him as actually my 9th overall edge rusher, right behind Greenard at number 95 overall. So a solid 3rd round grade. But one name you didn't mention that I actually want to talk about, and it's not that much of a sleeper because it is a name that's been thrown out there a few times, but Alex Highsmith, the edge rusher from Charlotte. This is a guy who, when you look at him, wait a second. Oh, yuck. Before I go on, gross. I just said this is a guy. I felt like Chris Collinsworth.
Now here's a guy.
Yuck. Gross. Now here's a guy. Oh, yuck. Oh, okay. Anyway, sorry.
Do tell us more about Alex Highsmith out of Charlotte.
Yes, I'm sorry. I got chills.
I said Alex Smith, like the Redskins quarterback.
Gross. Okay. Anyway, so yes. So Highsmith out of Charlotte. This is a kid who put up some crazy stats. He's got the length. He's got the athleticism. I have him as my 14th overall edge rusher, only because he's so raw as a prospect. He reminds me a lot of like a poor man Ziggy Ansah when he was coming out. He's got similar size to Ziggy, a little smaller, but he is 6'4", 250. He's got long arms. He's got a great frame to add another like 10 pounds to it and not lose any of his explosiveness off the edge. And he shat. I mean, he dominated at Charlotte. He had over 20 tackles for loss. I think he had like 15, 16 sacks, something crazy like that, something absurd. But the most important thing is that he showed up against top competition. It's one thing to be at Charlotte and dominate butthole teams that you're going to play on your schedule and FCS team, lower level teams and stuff like that. That's one thing. But to play up to your competition, that is something special. And he showed not only during the season he's got a place in the league, but he showed in the postseason circuit that he has a place in this league. And I would be okay drafting him as a developmental prospect somewhere in the middle of the draft.
All right, I love it. Yeah, I think that wraps it up as far as the edge rushers for me. Now, were there any other questions that you wanted to pose to me or anyone else that you want to throw out there? So you gave Alex Highsmith out of Charlotte. That's a late round guy to look after. Mine isn't so late round, but Julian Okwara is someone that I think that could maybe vault himself higher up into the draft. Someone just seems to fall in love with how he plays.
Dude, I really like his game. I mean, if he wasn't an injury-prone guy, we're talking about a definite first-round pick. He's got all the measurables. He's been a producer. He's scheme flexible, so I think he could play both a 4-3 and a 3-4. But he's athletic. He's got everything you look for, but those injuries knock him down for me. You know, I mentioned to be a first-round grade, you got to have less questions. Well, injury concerns always knock you down. Very rarely will, for me anyway, will a guy who's really injury prone not have it affect their grade as much. Like Tua is one of those people. Like the talent is just too much for me to look past. Like if I pass on a guy like Tua because he's injury prone, like Sam Bradford, and he doesn't get hurt, ends up playing 10 years and is a fucking Pro Bowler and a playoff winner and a Super Bowl winner at some point, then I'm going to lose my job and I'm going to be disgusted because I was too scared to pull the trigger. So guys like that don't have their grades affected, but those are few and far between. But I'm really a fan of Okwara. As a matter of fact, Gross Matos and Okwara are the only two guys besides Young and Chazon who I have as first or second round grade. I have both those guys as second rounders. And I have them both in my top 42. I got Gross Matos at 27, Okwara at 42. And I can definitely see Okwara go higher than that. I'd be a little surprised. I would like it because he's got the talent. But I think that's a fair range for him. Besides him, I think this is a real solid class. I don't think it's like Darrell Taylor from Tennessee, Terrell Lewis from Alabama, Alton Robinson from Syracuse. These are all guys who are going to be third, fourth round picks, possibly second. You never know. But that's their range. And it's nice to have options. Let's just say that. It's nice to have options. It's not as deep as it was last year or the years prior, but it's still a nice class. I don't think people should sleep on it. And if you miss out on getting Young or Chazon, don't be too upset with a guy like Gross Matos or Okwara. Like, I'd be fine as a Lions fan. I'd be okay if we took Gross Matos in the second round and Okudah in the first round, for example. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be upset. But
I love Gross Matos personally. I mean, not as a first rounder, but definitely in that second round range. I think he has the ability to be a every down player and contribute to any team. I think he could be a starter, not a high level starter, but I do think he's good enough to stick in the league and be a productive player for 8 to 10 years in either scheme, really. But it would benefit him to go to a team that could really develop him well and not expect him to be some kind of elite pass rusher right away, because that's just not really going to happen. It's not realistic.
For Gross Matos, I don't think so. No, he lacks what Chazon has, that twitch, that speed off the edge, that lightning quick ability off the edge. Gross Matos does not have. He's not a quick twitch guy. He doesn't have that elite first step. He's not going to blow by you or do anything special as a finesse pass rusher. He definitely needs to add more pass moves. But the talent is there. He's a great edge defender, so like he sets the edge well in the run game. He's got the bend that you look for to get around. I like the use of his hands, which makes sense because there's good coaching in the Big Ten, particularly Penn State. They got some good coaching staff down there. So I like what I see, particularly as a run defender, and that's huge. And with his athletic profile, like I say, he's not the fastest guy, he's not the quickest guy, but he has enough speed. He's got the burst to get the sacks that he needs once he's there. I think he had 8 sacks last year or something like that, like 20 tackles for loss. So it's there. You see it on tape. I have no issue with him being a late first round pick, early second round pick for sure. But other than that, I think that wraps it up on my end too.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't love the class either, but I do think there's some solid pieces in there, and I'd kind of rank it somewhere in the middle. If we were to rank all the positions in this upcoming draft, you're going to find some guys that will be very good contributors and starters in the league, but you're also going to have some guys that just aren't going to be able to play, unfortunately.
I mean, to give you an idea, I've got 11 guys ranked in my top 109. So
I think I have 12 in my top 100. So I actually have a few more than you, but also positionally we have some differences. So I think I have more guys that I'm putting as an edge rusher, whereas you're putting them more as, say, a linebacker, for instance.
Linebacker or D lineman, exactly.
Exactly. But we'll see how that plays out as we go along.
Yes, we will definitely touch up on all of that. But for now, we're going to put a bow on the edge rushers. I'm Dan Kornhauser.
I'm Bobby Hunt.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to catch our next video. It will be on the defensive line, but we'll also have linebackers, corners, and safeties coming up. Catch you guys later.